Hey, I'm Hollis, and welcome to the Friendly Fangirl podcast, where I nerd out on the films, shows, and video games that I encounter every week. Be sure to follow this podcast, and please follow my Twitter and blog at Hollis Films to follow my journey experiencing the entertainment industry's greatest stories. Beware of spoilers, you have been warned. Evil Within is one of my favorite games of all time, so of course I'm going to bring it up to start this Halloween podcast. First of all, the art style. The PS3/PS4 era graphics actually helps, but going more into the art of the architecture, even the enemies and character designs, it all cohesively works to build with this creepy, gothic, scary world of gore and death. It's peak aesthetic that few other horror games have also achieved. I'd probably compare the art and aesthetic to Bloodborne, even. The story, comparative to the sequel specifically, is confusing in a sense that you literally know nothing going in. You're thrown into this adventure without even knowing what's real, where you are, or what's going on. And I actually love that. You eventually get a grasp that you're in this crazy mind hive as you learn more about Ruvik over time. Given that we're in this weird hive mind reality, the developers had so much opportunity to mess with Castellanos' head, and they wasted no chance at all. There's many moments when the space around him is manipulated, whether that means falling down a Wonderland pit that turns into a hallway, or being warped to a new location. The gameplay is definitely a survival horror to the max, to the point that hearing your character say "out of ammo" becomes repetitive if you can't conserve your ammo. Also, the sprint system, it sucks, but it also just adds to the experience. The bosses are also very challenging. My personal least favorite is that breathing lady who you have to burn to death to defeat. She just creeps the heck out of me. I really, really, really hope that they make a third game. The sequel was pretty conclusive, but what about Joseph? He deserves a whole game for a Search Party 2. Just saying. So, about, I think a year ago, I watched the Buffy the Vampire Slayer spin-off, Angel, and I wrote a review, which you can, shameless plug, you can read on my blog, Hollis Films. So I'm just gonna read through that, and now that I've had about a year to marinate in all the experience that all 5 seasons gave me, I want to see if anything has changed, if I agree or disagree with my original thoughts, that sort of thing. So let's dive into it. I gotta hand it to Joss Whedon, because the main reason why the spin-off was even possible wasn't just because of the fan base, but because Angel as a character is so well written and so interesting, and David Boreanaz's portrayal is so good. He was the best character of the series. I think I'm talking about Angel, the series, which is how it should be. I grew up watching him play Booth on Bones. Angel is such a different character, so it's so refreshing to see David spend 8 seasons portraying different sides of Angel. Honestly, yeah. I still agree with that. That was definitely the highlight of the show, honestly. I think Angel had more screen time and more time to explore. We had many episodes of Evil Angel as well, which was pretty cool. I think I mentioned that later. Quick mentions of a few other standout characters. Starting off with a negative note, Cordelia. She stood out to me because I dislike her so. I hated her on Buffy. Was so upset to see her on Angel, though I really loved their brother-sister dynamic with the titular character, And just as she was really starting to get interesting, they threw the stupid Angel romance at us. And I hated her again. Just as I started to warm up to her, I do not ship her with Angel at all. In fact, giving Angel any kind of romantic interest at all was such a dumb idea, because there are several episodes through all seasons that show that his heart still aches for Buffy. Everything else was nonsense. I'm not even going to add to that. I think I worded it perfectly. Another Buffy reject, Wesley! Yeah! Probably the best character besides Angel. Looking at his whole arc from his introduction in Buffy to the series finale of Angel, he was such a dimensional character that had a lot of compelling development and story. He was brilliantly portrayed by Alexis Denisof. Agree. I love Wesley. Top 3. And finally, Lorne! My god, what a treat this character is! Yes, sir! He was the best thing about season 2. I loved his involvement in the other seasons, but I feel like they really did him dirty in season 5, at least in the second half. He was always fun to watch. I'll miss him dearly. Yeah, I think it, like, they what was the actor's name? I gotta look it up. But they did that man so dirty. He was a glorified guest star for 3 seasons. And then they made him a main character. He was in the main theme and everything. And then all of a sudden the Lorne character and story started going downhill. I mean, I liked him, but I did not like Lorne in season 5. Which sucks because he was finally a main character, but whatever. Coming back to another negative standout for me, Connor. I don't even want to read about this. What an absolute waste of what could have been an interesting character. Yeah. He was on that show for a season and a half, and not once did he get any character development at all. Growing up in a hell dimension could have led to some psychologically interesting scenes. Instead, all we got was teen angst and fatal hatred for his father. Like, that... There was... Yeah. His whole purpose on the show was to hate Angel and do everything in his power to prove it. His appearances in season 5 were nice, but it made me upset because this could have been a version of Connor we could have gotten without the use of memory mind wipe. Yeah, I think that was such a cheap way to develop Connor. Like, there were so many opportunities to work with, for the characters to work with Connor and to help him heal from whatever he went through, and that could have been there was just so much potential for many episodes dealing with that and focusing on that, and for Connor to naturally warm up to Angel and the family that he should have grown up with. It's just, yeah, if they spent more time unraveling his trauma rather than waste time on the disaster that was half of season 4, honestly, it's honestly disappointing, because I hate Connor as a character, and I feel like I should have liked him. I really don't want to talk about season 4. You know what? I'm not. I'm reading the paragraph I wrote. I'm so angry. Yeah, the Angelus twist in that season was the reason why I didn't quit the show. I just want to say that. I think the whole disgusting love triangle was like borderline Oedipus complex. It was so disgusting. I mean, they provided a logical explanation later, but that didn't change how I felt before learning this. I get it. I did not. I'm serious. I literally almost quit the show. And I've only ever done that once with Walking Dead. Walking Dead's the only show that I've actually ever quit because I was enjoying the episodes I was watching, but also reading spoilers about the future seasons, and I was not liking where it was going. So I was like, I'm gonna stop here. But Angel, I was like, I don't care what happens, this is not it. But I gave it a second chance, and it redeemed itself a bit, especially with season 5, which I'm reading about right now. They got rid of the 2 worst characters and brought in the best Buffy character, Spike. Yes, sir. He added so much charm and entertainment that was needed. I was so happy when I saw him. I was like, because I think it was like a year and a half. I watched Angel a year and a half after I finished the original Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So the last thing I saw of Spike, he was exploding in this radiant light, and I thought he was dead. And I didn't really read up. I don't think I read up on anything that happened after that, because I knew I was going to watch Angel. But this was a surprise to me, and I was so happy. Guys, I can't tell you. Spike is definitely on the list, probably top 5 interesting characters. So seeing him with Angel, that was a cool dynamic on its own. So yeah, the death of Fred ruined everything. I think what's her name, Elvira? She was hyped up and honestly a waste of time. Fred's death had no meaning, and Elvira was useless after a couple of episodes. There was this one cool episode where she was stuck in a time loop of sorts. That was probably it. The thing is that when it comes to like Angel and Buffy, I think this is where it's like whenever there's this ultimate god presented to the characters, they're hyped up to be menacing and all-powerful, like, they're gods. But it seems like there's a lot of the time, I think, maybe it's budget, maybe it's early 2000s network show, I don't know what it is, but these gods never live up to the hype. I think even in Supernatural, there are times where these gods just don't live up to the hype. Like, they're weaker than they're hyped up to be and easily killed. Like, Elvira? Like, what did she do? I can't remember any cool thing she could fight a little bit, I guess. But, like, she was supposed to be a god. But, like, they couldn't have a main character OP like that. Things would just be too easy. So they killed Fred, brought in this all-powerful god, but they had to dumb her down because if a party member was OP, then there would be no tension or drama or story. So what was the point of killing Fred? That was ridiculous. Whatever. We need a new Supernatural show in a different format outside of network standards. No 22-episode requirements that drag stupid stories out. I don't want everything happening in Sunnydale or every apocalypse starting in LA. I want it to go global. We had Buffy and Angel. We had 15 seasons of Supernatural. It's time for the next generation. If the next big show has started, please let me know. I'll check it out immediately. In the meantime, I don't mind watching reruns of Supernatural or Buffy, though unfortunately, I'm gonna give Angel a hard pass. I know this was a controversial opinion, but Angel is just overrated compared to Buffy, and it's gotta be a no for me, guys. Whenever there was a road trip, I had the same 3 DVDs to choose from to watch on the portable DVD player. Monster House was one of them. So the nostalgia factor is pretty significant for me. Since then, I've made it a tradition to watch it every Halloween. After all this time, I still see it as a classic to watch every spooky season. What stands out to me the most are the characters and the comedy. I hate to admit it, but I see a lot of myself in Chowder. And the main and side characters work really well together to bring the hilarious bickering that is the dialogue. It's my kind of humor, and I unapologetically quote this movie constantly. The animation is very unique. The art style goes a long way, but the motion capture solidifies the original look to the overall animation. When Monster House was made, mocap was still on the rise, just being implemented in video games and what would be a hit film, Polar Express. The voice acting was great, and I'm sure all the actors had a blast making this movie. The fun musical score pairs with the overall story nicely. The great tale of the Monster House seems like an exaggerated version of a folk tale you'd tell at a campfire. The design of the actual Monster House is very cool. The concept is equally interesting, and I believe this story takes place in the 80s, and for some reason, horror and 80s just works so well together, as we've seen millions of times. Overall, Monster House is a solid movie choice for any Halloween movie party. It's literally one of my favorite movies of all time. I'm sure it's in my top 20 in the list that I have somewhere, and it's just... I feel like no matter what I can say, I cannot describe how much I love this movie. It's just... It's up there. It's up there with, like, Hocus Pocus and Addams Family. Like, I can't... Halloween is incomplete unless I watch Monster House. So please, if you haven't seen it, give it a try. It is just so much fun, and it's quotable. It's funny. It's just... I love it. I can't wait to watch it. I haven't watched it yet. Yet for this Halloween year. But I'm so excited. An icon and symbol for the strange and unusual. Let's deep dive into the special Halloween superstar, Tim Burton. Tim Burton was born and raised in Burbank, California. Oh my god. If you hear that, that is rain. He always had an interest in animation, making his first stop-motion short film in his backyard at age 13. After high school, Burton went to California Institute of the Arts and studied character animation. One of his college films got him an animator's apprenticeship for Disney Animation Studios, which got him involved in the Disney films Fox and the Hound and Black Cauldron. During this time, Burton made a few other short films, including his original Frankenweenie short. Paul Rubens, who created and portrayed the character Pee Wee Herman, was impressed with Burton's style in the Frankenweenie short and invited him to direct Pee Wee's Big Adventure, Burton's feature film directing debut. The film premiered in 1985, and thus Tim Burton's career truly began. Burton's 80s and 90s career, unmatched, and it started with Beetlejuice. Boy, if this doesn't make it in your top 5 Burton films, what does? It's a classic. After the success of the film, he was asked to direct Batman, which starred Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson as Batman and Joker. Not my favorite Batman or Burton films, but it does stand as a turning point for superhero live-action films at the time. After Batman, Burton stepped back into his own creative mind palace to make a film about one of his most unique and iconic characters, Edward Scissorhands. This would be the first of many projects with Depp and Burton together over the span of 10 decades. Scissorhands can easily be regarded as one of Burton's greatest stories and films, as well as one of Depp's greatest performances of all time. It's simply a sin to not include this in your Burton marathon. In 1993, Nightmare Before Christmas was released. Story and characters blessed to us with the courtesy of Tim Burton. Jack Skellington, I don't even know where to begin. He's the Pumpkin King. I mean, come on, a Halloween icon, a symbol of the spooky season, not to mention the Halloween anthem the film has given us. This is Halloween. It literally is. Burton's 1994 film Ed Wood saw him collaborate with Johnny Depp again when he portrayed the titular character, which I thought was a solid tribute to the famous low-budget sci-fi director the film is based on. Burton next produced Disney's James and the Giant Peach, another stop-motion animation project. The next film would be an odd sci-fi, When Mars Attacks. Yeah, this was an experience. Stellar cast, though, with names like Jack Nicholson, Natalie Portman, Glenn Close, Pierce Bronson, Jack Black, and Sarah Jessica Parker. Yeah, it was something. Another Johnny Depp collab, Sleepy Hollow, made its way to theaters in 1999. This film is a beautiful display of Burton style. The film's aesthetic is creepy and gothic, the music is beautiful and adds a layer of haunt to the story. It's much different from Burton's next film, Planet of the Apes. Like, why did anyone ask him to do that? In 2003, Burton released Big Fish, which kind of goes back to what I'd call Burton's comfort zone, but from what I understand, it was originally a Steven Spielberg project, and there are definitely a lot of remaining Spielberg elements through the film. 3 more Depp collaborations really defined Burton's 2000s career: Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Corpse Bride, and Sweeney Todd. Paragraphs can be written for all 3, but I gotta shout out my favorite, Sweeney Todd. My god! It's literally one of my favorite movies of all time. Johnny Depp, Helena Bonham Carter, Alan Rickman, Timothy Spall, Jamie Campbell Bower, Sacha Baron Cohen. The costuming, the makeup, the lighting, the colors, the music, the songs. This was on Broadway, guys. I can't describe my love for this film enough. Burton was nominated for a Golden Globe. Depp was nominated for an Oscar. You may disagree, but this was the peak of Tim Burton's career. Burton kicked off the 2010s with the release of Alice in Wonderland, which was not a remake, but a creative live-action sequel with a great cast and stellar costuming. Johnny Depp's Mad Hatter is GOAT. The sequel and what is currently the Last Depp collab, Through the Looking Glass, released later in 2016. Tim, please save Johnny's career. Do another movie with him, thank you. 2013 saw the release of another Depp collab, Dark Shadows. That movie is not bad and has some genuinely funny moments. The year after, Burton released a full-feature stop-motion animation version of Frankenweenie, which I've grown to appreciate more and more over the years. This film saw Burton reunited with some of his regular actors in the voice cast, like Catherine O'Hara, Winona Ryder, Martin Landau, and Martin Short. Burton released the film Big Eyes, a biopic about the artist Margaret Keane. If you look up the artist, I don't think you'd be surprised for Keane to be an influence for Burton at all. Their art styles are actually very similar. Catching up to the present, the last 2 big Burton films were Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children and Dumbo. I don't think either are considered amongst his creme de la creme, but watching both films earlier this year, there's still so much to be appreciated. I am in love with the aesthetic of Peculiar Children, and I do have a crush on Eva Green, so I swoon over her Miss Peregrine portrayal. Dumbo is essentially the circus film Burton never got to do, and however I imagined a Burton circus film to be like, well, that was it. The story was heartwarming as well, and I appreciate it for not being a shot-for-shot remake. Now we get to the present, with Netflix's Wednesday show on the horizon. I think releasing less than a month away, I might add. I'll admit, I've been skeptical, but so far I'm a bit open about the casting. Danny Elfman is supposedly composing the soundtrack. I'd be astounded if you told me costuming wasn't by Colleen Atwood, because it totally looks like it is. Time would tell, but I still trust Burton to give us quality entertainment, and with every trailer that's been releasing, I'm starting to like the idea of this Wednesday show more and more, and I hope for Burton that it is a success, and I might just watch it at some point. Tim Burton is a film director that is responsible for creating a safe space in his films for all the weird, emo, outcast folks like myself, and is a celebrated icon for these traits. His unique art style is very recognizable, with the big eyes, crooked angles, and dark color scheme. His original stories seem to often include characters that are considered outsiders and are different from everyone else, like Edward Scissorhands or Lydia Dietz. Even stories that are not his own often include quirky characters that may be seen as odd, like Ichabod Crane or Willy Wonka. Tim Burton should be celebrated for the excellent work he's done over the years. From Beetlejuice to Dumbo, there isn't a Burton movie that I haven't enjoyed. Some are obviously better than others, but one thing is for certain. Tim Burton knows how to make a good movie. That's it for this week. Again, follow me on Twitter or leave a comment, and let me know what you've been fangirling over this week. Thank you for joining me, and I'll talk to you again next week.